Hello everyone, my name is Rochelle Innocent and I'm the founder and CEO of Project Purpose. Welcome to our channel. Our community is focused on fostering the intellectual and character development in children. We do this through our parent-child workshops that are focused on 4 themes: autonomy, self-efficacy, compassion, and self-concept, in order to cultivate grit, perseverance, and resilience in each child. And we are so thrilled to be offering one of the first of its kind digital, virtual, and continuous learning environments, enabling parents and children to connect from all around the world. At Project Purpose, our overarching mandate is to renew and rebuild family, community, and relationships. Our different social media platforms provide us with an opportunity to have discussions and to create space on all topics that relate to family, community, and relationships with ourselves as well as with others, with a primary focus on mental health and education. More precisely, the ways that the institutions of mental health and education play a role and have played a role in our societies at large. These discussions and debates provide us with an opportunity to think critically about what needs to change within these structures for us to live up to our bold slogan, support, protect, and empower each child through youth-focused development, better known as leadership in juvenescence. We recognize that in valuing our children's leadership potential, this also translates as recreating and co-creating environments, both socially and politically, that will enable our children to thrive. For those of you who are particularly keen on the topic, we also write thought pieces every other Sunday. We have a thought piece scheduled to drop this upcoming Sunday, so be sure to meander over to the website and check out our online content. Now, if it is the case that you are looking for a listening alternative, well, we're available on 12 different podcast platforms for your listening leisure, and we have provided you with access to the links in the description down below. Now, as is the convention, be sure to subscribe, hit that post notification bell so that you are aware of every time we post. And of course, if you like these conversations and you want to keep them going, like, comment, and share this segment. Let's get into it. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another segment here on Project Purpose. For those of you who are new, we cover topics that relate to mental health, mental wellness, and education on a week-by-week basis. Today, the topic of discussion is mental health. On the topic of mental health, we're talking about the 7 deadly sins, and we're talking about it because the inverse of those are different areas where we can focus on self-mastery, so we can cultivate ourselves and really focus on self-actualization and figure out how we want to develop our own character by building from the backdrop of these deadly sins. So I think that it's really an interesting concept to play on, and I've had different ideas as to how I was going to try to navigate development, growth, and self-mastery in a variety of ways around these deadly sins. But let's get into the last 4. So in the first video, if you missed it, I'll provide you a link somewhere here on the screen so you can access it. Talked about gluttony, we talked about greed, and we also talked about sloth, about laziness and the perception of laziness and how we can build a barometer so that we can be productive but also give ourselves permission to have rest. And so in this segment, we're covering the second part of our series, and we're going to be talking about pride, we're talking about envy, lust, and of course, we're going to close things off with wrath. So let's jump into it. So all of us have a sense as to when our ego is just out of control. Most of us have a sense as to when our ego is out of control. And I think that for me, the journey on making sure that I kept my pride in check was understanding that no amount of privilege, no amount of access, or no amount of oppression, and no amount of limitations that are placed in my progress are ever going to be enough for me to feel as though I am better or lesser than any other person. We are all even, we are all equal, and I think that ego sometimes will tell you you're better, or you have more significance, or you have more worth based on the game that this social modern era forces us to play. And I think that it's really important that we give ourselves an opportunity to step out of the value system of our modern day societies and see ourselves for our intrinsic worth. And I think think pride and ego really keep us from doing that. So if we base our worth on the things that are modeled in our society, if we base our worth on external things, then we'll never give ourselves the opportunity to see, to appreciate things that are different from us, to appreciate perspectives that are different from our own. And it's really very limiting. So I think that it's really important that when it comes to pride, all of us are going to benefit from the exercise of self-mastery and keeping our ego in check. And I like to think about the deadly sins as different areas or different inner demons that each of us have as part of our human nature that we need to keep on a leash. They're not things that we want to completely eliminate and eradicate out of our character, but we need to have control over them. We need to have mastery over them. And I think that that is really very important. So that's pride out of the bag. And so the next one is wrath. And so for me, because of my emotional footprint, my intrinsic makeup, wrath was a really very difficult one. Like for a lot of people, when it is the case that they are feeling unsettled or when they're feeling upset, they kind of lean towards sadness or feeling depressed. Whereas for me, I lean towards anger and rage, right? Like I am someone who has the ability to feel such anger, and I had to learn to keep that under control. And only when I learned to control my anger and to be very cold, calculating, and precise with how I administer my anger do I recognize my anger as a strength. But before, it was definitely a weakness. It was definitely something that people could use against me because if you knew what buttons to press, that you could set me all the way off. And I've learned that that is just not something that serves me. And I think that wrath is something that a lot of us don't really think a whole heck of a lot about. It's really very demonized in many societies, but I think that each of us recognize that there's power in anger. I don't demonize my anger. I see the power and the strength within my anger. And I don't know if any of you grew up watching Dragon Ball Z. I had brothers, so I definitely grew up watching Dragon Ball Z, but I honestly felt that energy shift. Like if I was angry, I actually felt like the energy around me just shift and just react and channel into my anger. And it was just a very powerful experience that was to some extent intoxicating to be angry. And I had a few conversations with mentors growing up as I was an adolescent and managing my anger that really led me to the journey of really keeping my anger on a leash and being the one who dictates to what extent my anger is unleashed and in which way. So I think anger that is administered in a cold, calculated, and a precise way is anger that is really a power. It is a strength that serves you and not a weakness. And so next on our list is envy. So envy is really different from jealousy. Envy is wishing that the people around you who have the talents and gifts that you admire, that you wish them away. You don't think that they deserve the talents and gifts that they have. And I think that all this is an intrinsic human nature characteristic. Like all of us experience envy to some extent, or it can be triggered in us in any which way, shape, or form. But it's something that you want to keep under wraps because you can really lose sight of who you are, your own growth, your own potential, your own value, if you're so focused on why other people shouldn't be the way they are or have the gifts that they have or the talents that they have. And you're not really a fun person to be around if you're like an envious person, if you're always comparing and contrasting and competing and wishing away the great opportunities or some of the really great achievements that people have achieved because they aren't your achievements. So I think it's better, rather than to exercise envy, rather than feel begrudging and resentment and contempt towards people who are achieving and progressing and really making a mark for themselves, to focus on yourself, focus on your own growth and your own development, focus on all of the things about you that make you unique and that make you shine. But if you can't do that, just know that that makes you the problem, okay? So I think envy unchecked really makes you a very difficult person to be around. Of these deadly sins that I'm talking about in today's segment. And last, definitely not least, and also the most comedic, is lust. And I think all of us have been there where, you're compromising on your values, you're making exceptions to the rules that you've made, your standards somehow seem so high because now the object of your attention isn't necessarily what it is that you need, but for the moment it is what it is that you want, and you can set yourself up for a lot of unnecessary drama and unnecessary heartache because fundamentally you're not compatible, but it doesn't change the fact that there's this attraction and there's this tension that takes place. And so I obviously am human. This has happened to me in my life more than once, and I've learned that when it is something that I experience, I really aim to pivot my attention elsewhere as quickly as possible because it does cloud my judgment quite a bit. And I've learned that I need to either create distance that is permanent or create enough distance so that I can make sure that my standards, my expectations are aligned with this attraction that I'm feeling. A lot of the times though, because I've burned myself, I run, right? If I do feel this coming up, the way that I've managed it is I just kind of run the other way until I can get myself together so that I'm not making choices that are really not in my best interest because of this haze that emotion or that state creates. I think all of us experience these to varying degrees, but we focus on development in these key areas. We're really focusing on character development. We're focusing on really mastering ourselves, feeling a certain degree of alignment, and making sure that we're never spinning off the rails in behaviors that don't serve us and don't serve the people we love and the people around us. In any case, that was it. Hopefully it was entertaining to you, but definitely not all. Now, before letting you go, I would be remiss if I didn't let you know that we will be going live at least twice a month, every month for the foreseeable future on our Facebook page. So definitely be sure to tune in. Now, these events are paid events, so if you do see yourself participating in our community on an ongoing basis, then I do suggest that you take a look at one of our package plans. Yes, so we do offer package plans over and above our live events, as well as access to webinars and workshops largely focused on self-mastery over and above these events. So check them out, tune in, be part of our game changer community, being part of the change that you want to see, allowing us a small role to play in your journey. We are on the road to 1K, so we do invite you to follow us across all of our social media platforms, leave a like, and we look forward to chatting with all of you very soon. We'll talk to you later.